Okay, go. Let's go.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Call Fishing. Today we're back on the Whaly and we're gonna do some spot shrimping out here in the Puget Sound. So in this episode, I'm gonna go through pretty much top to bottom of what you need to do to go spot shrimping here in the Puget Sound, and some tips for the first-time boaters. Be prepared. This is an activity that definitely requires a lot of preparations and research to be able to go out and be successful. It's a very popular activity here, especially in the Puget Sound, since it's only open for a couple days out of the year. So be prepared, because you only get one shot and one opportunity at this pretty much each year. You can see from these shots that is very, very popular. So you're gonna be almost shoulder to shoulder boating. Alright, so let's jump right into it. The first thing we're gonna talk about is preparation. To be successful at this, you definitely want to be prepared. So equipment is the first item. Shrimping requires you to drop your pots in very deep water, in 300 feet plus of water. So one thing that's highly recommended is a pot puller. These shrimp pots are real nice and heavy, because the recommendations is for them to weigh at least 20 to 30 pounds. So you definitely don't want to be lifting that up with a pot full of shrimps from a depth of 300 feet. Hand pulling is okay, but it's something that you only do once. And another thing is you want to be pulling up at a relatively fast speed, because the shrimp will escape if you stop or pull it up too slow. Okay, so the pot puller that I went with is the Ace Brutus. This seems like a pretty popular model here in the Pacific Northwest, and Costco had it, so I figure you can't go wrong. The Costco package came with both the carrying bag and also the hand-free accessory, which came in really handy. And I'll show you guys in a later clip, but what it essentially does is it auto-winds the rope as it's pulling up. The nice thing about this model is it'll fit right on your Scotty attachment. So you have a Scotty mount already, then you'll be set. Okay, I'll quickly show you guys how to install the hand-free accessory. You just gotta take out the pulley that I came with, put in the one that the Bulldog came with, attach the attachment, and screw it on. It'll take some force, so be ready for that. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward to set up. Alright, this is what it looks like all tucked away in the carrying bag. It's actually pretty nice and portable, much more convenient than I thought it'd be. It is pretty heavy though, so it's very nice that it came with a carrying bag. Alright, next item is how to mount the pot puller to your boat. So what I use this Scotty mount right here. So all it is just the your standard downrigger mount, and it has a plate that you can screw on and attach to the side of your boat and screw it on, so it's very nice and portable. So this is what that back plate looks like. 4 holes to screw 4 drill right into your boat. Alright, first thing you want to do is measure where you want to place it in your boat. Here I chose to place it on one of the places with the rope pulley. So before you mount the Scotty plate on, remember to put the bolts in the back so you can attach it on. So just take the 2 bolts that it came with and slide it on. So now I got the 4 holes drill out for the block. So now we're going to take a long screw instead of the ones that it came with. And these are 1/4 inch diameter bolts. Now that it's screwed on, use a screwdriver and make sure it's all tightened. So now after we tighten this up, this thing's rock solid. Okay, one thing I want to point out real quick is the way we attach the bolt into a plastic boat is not the same as how you do it on a regular boat. Because the boat is plastic, it doesn't grip onto the boat as well, so it is actually pretty easy for the boats to get pushed out. So the other approach I use is to actually use these toggle bolts. So with the backing piece, it helps to grip both the inner and outer wall of the boat to help actually secure the mount into the boat. The main challenge is actually being able to install these bolts So if someone has a better way on how to fix items to this plastic boat and have it hold securely, let me know in the comments below. Okay, so with the pot holders and attachments to the boat secure, let's talk about shrimping gears. So the first item you're obviously gonna need is pots. There are two main type of pots that people like to use here in the Puget Sound. The first one are these round type pots, and the second type is the square pot. So the current regulation says that you can only have up to 2 pots per person and a maximum of 4 pots per boat. So for this year, since I'm new to this, I got 2 of the round pots and 2 of the square pots to see which one does better. My research tells me that the round pot is more popular, but the square pots is better for a shorter soak. That's an important consideration because, for example, like in this year, Marine Area 10 outside Alki only open for 3 total hours. So you definitely want to take advantage of the short soak time. Okay, some quick pros and cons for the round pots. It actually comes weighted pretty heavy already. Like the ones I have, for example, weighs 25 pounds already, so I didn't have to add additional weights to it. Whereas with the square pots, you would have to add weights to it. The other benefit of the round pot is that you can stack them. So for a small boat like the Whaly, where space is definitely a consideration, they actually do come in pretty handy as compared to the square pots. For ropes, people normally have 400 foot of ropes since they likely will be shrimping in around 300 feet of water. Always better to have more and not need than to need and not have more. Another great item to have is a bucket for the ropes to throw into as you're pulling it up. As you can imagine, one of the most challenging aspects of shrimping is rope management, since with 400 foot of ropes for a pot, you have about 1600 feet of rope in your boat. So it's very important that you're able to manage and store these ropes properly so they don't get tangled up. Here I have this nice round blue bucket that nicely fit the rope as it comes off the pot holder and stores the rope. Some people use a trash can or a big basket. They also double up as a item to hold your shrimps after you pull them out. Okay, so the next item is the buoy. So they usually come with one of the giant yellow buoy, but I would recommend having at least 2 because the pots are really heavy and you definitely don't want to be losing these. What people also like to do is they like to have a safety buoy attached also, which in this picture you can see those giant yellow balls, and those will actually help float the pots in case your pots gets dragged away by current or you accidentally dropped it in a spot that's too deep. So definitely highly recommended. Also, another great thing to do is to make your buoy as distinct as possible, because during open shrimp days there's just going to be a sea of them and you want to be able to locate yours as fast as you can. Alright, another piece of helpful equipment is a boat hook. So what this is literally just a stick with a hook on it, and this will help you retrieve your buoy as you come up on them. It's a lot better than bending over and trying to grab it, or especially if your buoy is a little bit out of reach. Again, not needed, but definitely nice to have. Okay, so that's pretty much all the gears you'll need. The next item up is bait. So I see a lot of recipe online, but the main components or core of the recipe is having mackerel, tuna, cat food, scented oil, and maybe some shrimp pellets all mixed up together. The idea is to get a peanut butter type consistency. You want the bait to scatter and dilute, but not too much as soon as it hits the water. The key is you want to mix everything up at least 24 hours in advance to make sure everything soaks up together and all the oil get nice and mixed up together. Okay, so that's gears and baits and equipments. So next up, an important factor is space management, especially for a relatively small boat like the Whaly. As you can see, even with 4 pots, all the ropes, and all the buoy, it takes up a good chunk of the boat. So going in with more than 2 people, you definitely have to plan it out. Make sure you're organized so that you can move around and be able to set up the pots on the go or in your boat before you deploy them. Okay, one additional key piece of equipment is a fish finder. So this is very important for shrimping because you need to know how deep the spot you're at is so you can drop it in the optimal range. And also you need to kind of know the contour of the ground below to make sure you're dropping it in a sandy and not steep location. GPS enabled one will also allow you to mark your pots so you're able to come back and find it easier. So definitely a highly recommended item. You don't want to be dropping pots blindly, especially with such a short time frame and at such depth. Alright guys, all that's left is to go out and give it a shot. This is my first year, so I went out on the opener days and I went out once again when they opened up the area 9. The limit for these shrimps is 80 a head, and this being the first time, we didn't quite get our limits going out, but did good enough to have a nice meal and just a fun outing overall. There is a lot of stuff you have to do to prepare, but it's I think it's well worth it once you catch some of this nice delicious shrimps. Don't let the everything here deter you. All it takes is just experience. Once you get used to it, then it gets a lot easier and a lot less intimidating. And that's pretty much Shrimping 101. In terms of locations and spots, you just kind of have to go out there. I went out to the most popular spots. Here in Alki is pretty popular. Pretty much you'll see where a bunch of boat conjugate, and you'll know that's a decent enough spot. Once you get more experience and learn the ropes, then you can go off and explore on your own and find your own good spots. As you can see from these clips, some pots were good and some pots were pretty bad, getting only like a couple. So this being the first time I experimented with soak time, anywhere from 45 minutes up to an hour and a half. Letting the ring pot soak longer was definitely much more beneficial. It's one thing that I found out. So if you do buy the giant ring pot, let it soak for at least an hour and a half, in my opinion. For the square pots, I think an hour of soak is good enough, and you should be able to catch plenty with those. In terms of performance and comparison, I think they both do pretty good. They both catch shrimp, so you can't go wrong with either. Just whichever ones that you like. Oh, one more thing to keep in mind, guys, is that on these shrimping days, it's going to be super crowded, especially at the launch. So make sure you get there nice and early, otherwise you'll be waiting in line for pretty long. Also be careful of other boaters, because the water is going to be packed. When I went doing the Alki opener, it was just like shoulder to shoulder boating almost. So be on the lookout for your fellow boaters, and stay safe out from the water and have a great time. Alright, I just want to show you guys why rope management is so important. We're pulling up 400 feet of ropes every pot, so you want to make sure you have a place where the ropes can go so it doesn't get all tangled up. If it gets tangled up as you're pulling it up, you're in for a bad time, because one, the shrimp can escape, and two, it eats out a lot of time in your day trying to detangle it. Especially with the short time limit, you definitely want to make sure you have everything ready to go. Alright guys, so in terms of the Whaly's performance for this activity, it gets the job done. There's I think there's enough space given that it's a 16 footer, but don't expect a ton of room in the boat. The boat is rated for 10 people, but for activity like this, I say probably no more than 4 or 5 to be able to comfortably move around the boat at least. In terms of how it handles, it's very stable, as you guys know. So you won't be afraid to fall over or flip or anything. It can pull up the pods just fine. Even if you have a lot of weights on one side or the other, didn't seem to be a problem for the boat. The main downside is, as I stated earlier, being able to attach the mount to the boat securely. I think this might be because I don't know of a proper way to attach and mount onto a plastic boat. So if you guys have any tips or comments on that, let me know below. The other item is the front hatch was actually not as useful as I thought it would be for pulling in pots, just because the pot puller is mounted towards the back on the side. There's really no opportunity to kind of bring the pots up in front to use that front hatch, so it kind of wasn't as useful as I thought it'd be. The other downside to the hatch is if you're running in stronger waves or currents, then water will actually spill through the cracks of the hatch, so be mindful of that once you're taking it out in rougher water. One good thing about the hatch is if you launch at a place where there's no dock, then using the hash to enter and exit the boat was actually really useful, so that was really nice. Due to the high initial investment into this activity, you'll definitely want to do a lot of research to make sure you have all the knowledge you need to know to be able to be successful when you're out in the water. I hope this video provided enough information for you guys to go out there and get started on this pretty fun activity. If you like shrimp, I think you'll find that these spot shrimps will be one of the best tasting shrimps you'll ever have. Alright guys, that's about it for this video. Spot shrimping is a pretty fun activities, and the rewards for them is great. They are really good eating them just raw or grilled up. Really nice eating. I would highly recommend you guys give it a shot if you guys get a chance. I hope you guys enjoy the content and find the information useful. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know below and I'll try to answer them as best as I could. Alright, thanks for watching everyone, and until next time.